So Notre-Dame Cathedral, the historic 12th century UNESCO protected cathedral, has suffered a devastating fire that has ripped through and burned a large proportion of the internal framework of the building. Although it's been reported that the underlying structure is still safe, the internal oak latticework and beams and art and so forth have been largely destroyed. Now, in the past 24 hours, rich, wealthy individuals and massive global companies have pledged literally hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds to help the restoration effort. Now, while these donations may seem like a noble cause, they expose a totally morally depraved and repugnant strand of neoliberal capitalist system that places physical products and entities above real human suffering. The cathedral has no feelings. The cathedral cannot feel pain. It's a non-sentient entity. It cannot suffer like a human can, or an animal, or the environment. We're talking about a 900-year building that, yes, has an incredible amount of history and is a beautiful work of art and so forth and so forth. But ultimately, we are talking about a physical building. We are not talking about a child. We're not talking about a mother who can't put food on the table for her kids. We're not talking about a migrant who has nowhere to stay and can't get a job and so forth. And yet, in 48 hours, nearly $1 billion has been pledged in donations by rich billionaires and massive mega companies to restore the cathedral to its former glory. But this naturally raises some huge questions about the system that we live in. Where's the money when Macron pushes through his neoliberal programme of cuts and attacks on labour rights, potentially placing millions more people on precarious, worse employment contracts? Where's the money when he pushes through his cuts on pensions and when he pushes through his increases on fuel taxes that will cripple poorer French people? Where's the money for the 2.5 million unemployed French citizens who live month to month without stable work, struggling to pay the bills? Where's the money for the 140,000 French homeless people, approximately 30,000 of which will be children that don't have a fixed place to call home? Where's the money for the thousands of migrants that have escaped war-torn countries only to be turned away and told that if they enter, they'll be subject to 12 months imprisonment? Where's the money when these massive global conglomerates use tax havens and other complicated mechanisms to avoid paying their fair share of taxes? Where's the money to end the reliance on fossil fuels and move to a completely green, sustainable economy? Where's the money for the families of the 72 people who burned alive in the Grenfell Tower tragedy? A tragedy that was only able to raise some 28 million over a 2-year period, not 1 billion in 48 hours. Where's the money for the Chinese worker who works 12-hour shifts in ridiculous conditions in a Chinese factory? Where's the money for him when he's only earning $3 a day? Whose work contributes significantly to the massive profits of these global conglomerates? Where's the money for the millions and millions of Americans that live without health insurance, who, if they had to go to the doctor or get surgery for some type of problem, it would cost them thousands and thousands and potentially bankrupt them? The point is, the list could go on, but the fact is the world has a lot of human suffering, and the money that's been donated generously to the Notre-Dame disaster, if you will, should first and foremost be given to solve real human problems. The Notre-Dame Cathedral fire is not a true human disaster. I'm sorry, it's not. There are thousands more problems where this money should go to first. And let's be honest, the only reason why these massive global companies can afford to give hundreds of millions of pounds in donations to the Notre-Dame Cathedral is because, one, they siphon a lot of their profits offshore, so they significantly reduce their tax bill completely immorally at the expense of the public purse and national governments, and because these companies are total tyrannies that are controlled in a completely undemocratic manner, where working people, the people actually doing the productive work of the company, generating its profits, have absolutely no say over how those profits are spent. And so the power lies with the owners of the companies and the shareholders and the board, who ultimately control how the money is spent, and who permit thousands of their workers to work on poverty wages, hundreds of times less than the people at the top, who are controlling how the money is spent and how the salaries are configured. If we had workplace democracy, where all the workers of the company own the company and have a say over how the decisions are made and how the money is distributed, of course the money would be distributed much more equally. And furthermore, they would democratically decide whether they want to donate all that money to a cathedral, which is a non-sentient entity, or if they want to spend the money on real human suffering and real human tragedy, which unfortunately, or fortunately, this is not. If these massive global companies and wealthy billionaires with far too much money to spend, if they wanted to do something truly noble and just, they could, for instance, set up a separate institution and work with the national governments of Britain, France and America to eradicate poverty and eradicate homelessness. Overnight, if they wanted to, they could build hundreds of thousands of houses, or better yet, use derelict houses and unoccupied buildings, so we don't have to create loads of new houses and rip up loads of the environment. Or do other measures that would prevent and tackle homelessness. If they wanted to, they could do that very quickly, but instead they're spending the money on a cathedral, a single building, when there is all this suffering in the world. This shows the completely sick and disgusting system that we live in that allows this to happen. This is exactly why democracy is not the same as capitalism. Capitalism and democracy cannot go hand in hand. We need to democratize these institutions. These global institutions need to come under the control of working people. It has to happen if we're going to get a fairer world. I'm sorry, we do. Thank you for listening to my video. If you share my views and if you want to see more content like this, please like and subscribe. It's really appreciated. It's all things important. Thanks a lot.